Humanity has faced countless threats on its long journey to where it is today. Famine, predators, a hostile climate. But throughout that entire journey, one companion never left our side: disease. And among all diseases, few have matched the devastation caused by smallpox. In the 20th century alone, it is estimated to have killed between 300 and 500 million people. How many it claimed before then is impossible to know. By itself, smallpox killed more than 5 times as many people as both world wars combined, and more than 10 times as many as AIDS. And then, it disappeared. Humanity had finally won, but not before the virus took one final, strange breath. To understand what happened, it's time to go down the rabbit hole. Thousands of years ago, somewhere in Africa, an ancestral virus made the jump from a wild rodent to a human host. At first, it was just another pathogen. But as human populations grew larger and more connected, the virus found the perfect conditions to spread. It was smallpox. For centuries, it haunted civilizations across the globe. Roughly 1 out of every 3 infected people would die. Those who survived often endured a brutal illness marked by high fever and bodies covered in painful, pus-filled lesions. And even after the infection was gone, it rarely left without a trace. Many survivors carried permanent scars for the rest of their lives, a visible reminder of what they had endured. Yet amid all this devastation, there was one observation that did not go unnoticed. Those who survived smallpox never seemed to catch it again. Long before anyone understood viruses, antibodies, or the immune system itself, people had already begun experimenting with that observation. In China and India, different societies arrived at a remarkably similar idea, a practice known as variolation. In China, dried scabs from smallpox victims were ground into a powder and inhaled through the nose. In India, material taken from the pustules of infected individuals was introduced into healthy people. The procedure was risky and sometimes deadly. But for the first time in history, humanity had found a way to fight back. Over time, variolation spread far beyond the regions where it first emerged. By the 13th century, it had reached Egypt and was spreading across North Africa. In the early 1700s, it arrived in Europe, where it quickly attracted both supporters and critics. The procedure was far from perfect. Some people developed severe disease, and others died as a result of the treatment itself. Yet despite its risks, variolation worked. In fact, it proved so effective that versions of the practice survived for centuries, remaining in use in parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan until the 1970s. By the 18th century, smallpox was at its peak. Variolation offered some protection, but it remained risky and was far from a perfect solution. Then, once again, people noticed a pattern, and this one was even stranger. Milkmaids rarely seemed to develop smallpox. Many of them had previously suffered from a much milder illness that caused pustules on their hands and forearms. The infection came from dairy cattle and was known as cowpox. In humans, cowpox was usually little more than a minor inconvenience, a few lesions, a brief illness, and recovery. Yet somehow, those who had contracted it appeared to be protected from one of the deadliest diseases on Earth. Most people dismissed it as a curiosity. One man did not. That man was Edward Jenner. Drawing on years of observations about milkmaids and cowpox, Jenner came up with a bold idea. On May 14, 1796, he collected material from the cowpox lesions of a milkmaid named Sarah Nelmes and inoculated it into an 8-year-old boy named James Phipps. The boy developed the mild symptoms Jenner had expected and soon recovered. But the real question remained: was he now protected against smallpox? To answer it, Jenner did something that would be unthinkable by modern ethical standards. A few months later, he deliberately exposed James Phipps to smallpox, the disease that had killed millions, the disease that had terrorized humanity for centuries. And then, everyone waited. James never developed the illness. Jenner's theory had been correct. Jenner had just discovered vaccination, a revolutionary medical procedure that would go on to save countless lives and change the course of human history forever. Vaccination spread across the globe, and little by little, smallpox began to retreat. For the first time in thousands of years, humanity was winning. The disease that had once terrorized entire civilizations was now fighting a losing battle. In 1977, the last known naturally occurring case of smallpox was recorded. The patient, Ali Mao Malin, survived. Because the virus infected only humans, its chain of transmission had finally been broken. The victory was complete. The World Health Organization declared smallpox eradicated, and laboratories around the world were ordered to destroy their remaining samples. Only 2 facilities were permitted to retain the virus for research purposes. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented. A disease that had killed hundreds of millions, blinded countless others, and scarred generations of survivors had finally been defeated. Smallpox was dead, or so it seemed, because before disappearing forever, the virus would take one final and tragic breath. Following the last naturally occurring case of smallpox, the World Health Organization was preparing to officially declare the disease eradicated. Humanity had won. But in 1978, samples of the virus still existed inside a number of research laboratories around the world. One of them was located within the Department of Medical Microbiology at the University of Birmingham, where smallpox research was overseen by virologist Henry Bedson. The year before, the World Health Organization had rejected Bedson's request to continue collaborating on smallpox research, citing concerns over laboratory safety. Then, on August 11, 1978, a 40-year-old medical photographer named Janet Parker began to feel ill. She developed headaches, body aches, and a rash that gradually spread across her body. In the early hours of the following morning, she was admitted to Birmingham Hospital. The diagnosis stunned everyone: smallpox, a disease that was supposed to be gone. Parker was immediately transferred to an isolation unit. Her family, friends, and close contacts were quarantined. More than 500 people who may have come into contact with her were rapidly vaccinated. Despite every effort, her condition worsened. On September 11, 1978, Janet Parker died. She became the last person in history to die from smallpox. Her body was cremated to eliminate any possibility that the virus could spread further. The tragedy did not end there. After visiting his daughter in the hospital and witnessing her condition, Parker's father suffered a heart attack and died shortly afterward. But if smallpox had been eradicated, what happened? Investigators soon discovered a troubling connection. Janet Parker worked in the same building that housed Henry Bedson's laboratory. Somehow, a live sample of the virus had escaped containment. Exactly how it happened has never been established with complete certainty. But the conclusion was unavoidable. The infection had come from the laboratory. As public scrutiny intensified, Henry Bedson found himself at the center of an international controversy. The scientist who had dedicated his career to studying smallpox became forever linked to its final tragedy. While still in quarantine, Bedson took his own life. He left behind a note that read, "I am sorry to have misplaced the trust which so many of my friends and colleagues have placed in me and my work." Officially, Janet Parker was the last person to die from smallpox. But perhaps that is not the entire story. In a cruel twist of fate, the virus may have claimed one final victim, not through infection, not through disease, but through the weight of guilt. The last life claimed by smallpox may have belonged to a man who never contracted the virus at all.